So today's topic is email security. In email security specifically, we are going to talk about pretty good privacy. It provides services like authentication, confidentiality, and digital signature. So all these three things are very important, and that is what we saw in previous classes about authentication, how it can be achieved, about confidentiality, then what is a digital signature. So last class we saw a digital signature, and I told you if you have a private key, then if you use a private key to encrypt the data, then it means we are using digital signature. So with that, we have additional two services like the email compatibility and zip, which is nothing but a compression algorithm. So we'll see how the email compatibility is going to work and how the zip is going to work. Okay. So if you see in this diagram, you have a plain text. Then you have a hash function. Generally, hash function is independent of key. It does not use any key. Only MAC function uses key to generate the MAC code. Hash function does not use the key to generate the hash code. Okay. Then we are encrypting using the private key. So the hash function is first the hash code is found, which is then encrypted using the private key. So digital signature comes here. Now the message and this is appended, and here you use the compression algorithm, which is called Z. Okay, you can use a compression algorithm, and this message is sent to the receiver. Now the receiver will first decompress it. Okay, then see this part, because here I had no place, so I have drawn it down. So after the decompression is done, you get the message and the encrypted hash code. So from the message, they are going to again perform some hash functions on this message to get a hash code. So this will be the generated hash code, and this is going to be the appended hash code. From this sender, you're going to get this hash code, and you're going to decrypt it using the public key of A, and that is this hash code is from the sender. So the generated hash code and the sender hash code is going to be compared. So this is the process of your email security. Just a second. Okay, so this is the working of email security. So I'll repeat it once more. Okay, so pretty good privacy. If they ask you about pretty good privacy, you can tell it as an example for email security, and you can tell that first you need to tell that provide services like authentication, confidentiality, and digital signature. Apart from that, it also ensures the compatibility of email, and it uses a compression algorithm. So if you see the working of this from the diagram, you have a plain text that is going to be given some hash functions, and the hash function does not use any key to generate the hash code. Okay, so the generated hash code is encrypted using a private key. So this is the append symbol. So this hash code, which is encrypted form, is and the message are encrypted together. They are compressed using the compression algorithm Z, that is given to the sender side. So sender side first the Z inverse, which is nothing but decompression takes place, and this decompression, once decompression is done, you get the message and you get the encrypted hash code, which is sent from the sender. So now the hash function is generated on the message, and the sent hash code is also decrypted and got, both are compared. So if you see here, this EP is nothing but public key encryption. Public key encryption means it is nothing but it's going to use two different keys, one a private and another public. So DP is your public key decryption. So for encryption, they are using private key. For decryption, they are using public key. Yeah. Then H is your hash function. KS is nothing but your secret key. Okay, we have not used KS here. We might use it next. H is hash code. So here, in this case, both the authentication and digital signature are achieved. But in this scenario, confidentiality is not achieved. Okay, because we are using the public key in the receiver side. So public key will be available to anyone in the network. So anyone can use a public key and decrypt the message. So to confidentiality is not achieved yet. So to ensure confidentiality, we try to make a small change to the previous one. So what is that we are doing? Here we have a message. Look into the diagram. So to the message, we first you apply the compression algorithm. To the message, we are going to apply the compression algorithm. And then here we are doing we are using a symbol called EC. What is EC? EC is nothing but here I have mentioned. Can you see the slide? Here I have mentioned it's the conventional encryption, which is nothing but the symmetric encryption. So symmetric encryption means what? It will use the same key in both the sender and receiver side. So here the key KS is used. It's the secret key. Now the key is used to do the encrypt, and one more encryption is taken place using the public key. So here in the sender side, there is a compression algorithm used. Then there is symmetric key encryption done, as well as asymmetric is also done. Then it is appended and it is sent to the receiver. So at the receiver side, you are able to see KS. You are able to get the key separately and the message separately. So again, you have to apply the private key to decrypt this key, and then what you do, you apply the decompression algorithm to receive the message. Again, in this method, we are ensuring confidentiality, but authentication is not ensured because we are using symmetric key. So combining these, the first and the second case, if we combine, then we will get a third case, and the third case is going to ensure all the three properties, that is authentication, confidentiality, and digital signature. So the third case is nothing but a combination of the first and second. So first case, what did we see? So in the first case, what did we see? We saw that the hash functions were used and a private key was used to encrypt. Now see in this diagram, same thing. The hash function is used. The private key is used for encryption. That is again appended and sent, and a compression algorithm is implemented. Okay. Until this, it is from the first diagram. From this diagram until this part. Hope you are able to see this part. Now it jumps to this diagram. So here what happens after this Z, what happens? There is conventional encryption. So here we are starting this diagram, conventional encryption using the secret key. Then we are appending it with the public key or encryption method. So in the sender side, this part of the sender and this part of the sender both are combined. That is the sender side. Now the receiver side, the reverse of this will be done. So first you have to decrypt using the private key. Then you have to again perform the conventional decryption using the symmetric key KS. Then decompression algorithm has to be done. Then you receive the encrypted message. Now then you generate the hash code. Both the hash code are compiled. Okay, I will again show you this diagram. I'll give you just 2 minutes. You just try to see what is happening by yourself. Okay, so here, what are the things we are using in this email security is we are using a signature. So that signature is either using the DSS approach with SHA algorithm, or you can use the RSA approach with SHA algorithm. Okay. So we already studied about digital signature standard, which uses either the RSA approach or the DSS approach. So you can use any one of it to generate the signature. Then you can use defilement key exchange or triple DES to ensure confidentiality. Then Z is any compression function. Then email compatibility, generally they take the radix 64 ASCII values to implement the email compatibility. Okay. So we'll go on to the next hash algorithm, which is nothing but the HMAC. Okay, so this is so the main difference I was repeating again and again is that when you generate a hash code, you use the hash functions. When you use hash functions, you don't use any key. Okay, so when you generate a hash code using the hash functions, there is no key involved. But when you generate a MAC code, using the MAC functions, it uses a key. So MAC function uses key to generate a MAC code, whereas hash function does not use a key to generate a hash code. If you want to achieve both together, if you want to generate hash functions and at the same time use the key also to generate the hash functions, then we can go on for this HMAC. Are you clear what I'm telling? So the key K is shared between the sender and receiver. Now to this key, we are going to make it as K plus. To this key K, we are going to make it as K plus. What is K plus is nothing but you're going to pad zeros on the left side. Why you are padding zeros on the left side is it will not change the value. Okay, if you pad zeros on the left side, for example, just I'll stop the share and I'll open another share, just stay online. So if I have a number, okay, like this, then the value of it is 2, right? So if I pad zeros to the right side, so this is the right side, this is the left side. So if I pad zeros to the right side, the value of that number is changed, right? So when you, our aim is we have to pad, but it should not affect the, it should not affect the or change the value. Okay. So now if I add on to the left side, just a second. Now if I add on to the left side, any number of zeros also, it is not going to change the value. It's going to be only 2, right? So that is why we are padding on to the left side. I hope I'm clear. If you're not able to understand, just go to the chat box. I'll repeat it again. Okay. So that is why we are doing padding on the left side. Okay. And how long we are going to do this is until the K comes B bits. Now what is this B bits? It's nothing but the block size of the plain text. Okay, so iPad here you're able to see the value 00110110, and OPAD, we have a value called OPAD in this algorithm, which is nothing but 010111100. So these two are predefined bits. Okay, this is already, you're supposed to use this only for this algorithm. It's already defined. So this has to be calculated, or this has to be done before applying the hash functions. Okay, so see here, if you see this diagram, first the k has been made to k plus by adding the bits. Then you XOR it with iPad values. Okay, the value that is given here. When you do so, you get something called S1, and this S1 has to be the length of the B bits, that is the number of bits in the block size, and this should be same. It should not differ. Then this S1 is going to be appended with the plain text. So this is Y0 until Y L minus 1 is nothing but the plain text, number of plain text blocks. And this S1 is appended in front. And B is nothing but the size of the plain text. Now to this, you are going to apply the hash function. Now to this, you will apply the hash function. Hash function will also take the initial vector values. Then this hash function will produce hash code. Then next, you're going to, that is the first step. You have a second step also. It is a two-step process. So in the second step, again the k plus is going to be XORed with OPAD values, which we saw here. Okay, this value. And you get an S2. This S2 is appended to the output of S1. Okay, what is the output of S1? The output of S1 is the hash code that is generated along with the message. So this S1's output is the hash code generated along with the message using a key, right? So this is S1 output. So this S2 is appended along with the S1 output, and the hash function is again performed on this S1 output, and then you get a hash code. Okay, so the hash code will be, if you see this line, you can understand hash code will be the hash function of S2 appended with the S1 output. Okay, so let me tell the 6 steps. If I tell the 6 steps, you can easily understand the diagram. So just a few seconds, my internet is not little proper. Just few minutes, I'll repeat it. Okay, so these are the 6 steps that has to be followed in this algorithm. The first one is you need to select any k which is between 0 and b. Now what is b? B is nothing but the size of the plain text. If the k is less than b, okay, if the k is less than b, on that condition you are going to pad zeros on the left until the k will become equal to b. So this is how you get the k plus. Okay, now the k plus you XOR it with iPad, which is a predefined value. It will give you S1. Now this S1 is appended with the plain text M. And you apply any hash algorithm, like for example SHA-512 also you can apply. You apply any hash algorithm on this S1 appended with message, okay, so that you get the first output. Now next what you must do, pad the n bits until the length is equal to the b bits. Again you add it, then you XOR that k plus with OPAD. This is this diagram process. Okay. Then you will append this S2 with the output of S1, and again you apply the SHA algorithm to get the final hash code. Okay, are you able to follow this? Just reply in the chat box, any one of you, whether you're able to follow this. Okay, thank you. I got a message. Okay, now with this, actually, the fourth unit is over. So we need to go to the fifth unit. I'm going to just start viruses today, the fifth unit, and I'll just move on to the other topics. Um, so in viruses, you know what is a virus, right? So a virus is a malicious program that is going to destroy the system. So viruses can be generated by anyone, and it can be available in our system mainly from the network. So if you see this diagram, it's a taxonomy of the malicious programs. So some viruses are independent. So the independent viruses, if you see the diagram, it is the worm, zombie, and all. They are independent viruses that they don't need any instrument to multiply or to propagate or to travel. Okay, some viruses need a host program, or they need a medium to travel. Okay, so there are two types of viruses. One is independent virus. They don't need the help of anyone to travel. The other type of viruses, they need a medium to travel. So those kind are the trapdoors, logic bombs, Trojan horse, okay, and some viruses also come under that. So for example, this coronavirus, the real-time virus that's happening now, it needs a medium, right? It needs a surface to stay on, to hang on, to multiply, to replicate itself, to multiply itself. If there is no medium supported for it to multiply, it will just lose its life and go away. So likewise, this concept of virus to our computers is also taken from the real-time virus. So generally, in general, virus means it will attach itself to some program and try to travel and try to make copies of itself and try to destroy the system. Whereas a worm, it will by itself generate another worm. It doesn't need any medium to generate. It by itself can multiply. For example, if you see a beautiful example of earthworm, if you have a pot in your house, okay, after you only planted the pot without only mud you put. Okay, after 6 months or something, if you put the entire pot down and see the mud, you will have one or two worms. Okay, those worms are earthworms. Earthworms is the friend of the farmer. So if you again put it back into the same pot, okay, leave it aside, don't do anything. After some time, you put the pot, after 6, 7 months or 1 year, you put the pot down, again you will see more number of worms. Okay, so you can see that real-time example and understand this difference between virus and worms. So worms can replicate by itself. And one important virus is the logic bomb, which is like our bomb. No, by means of you see in the mobiles, sorry, in the movies, that when you press a mobile or when a call comes, there is a blast. So the basic idea is when there is an action, that action is going to trigger that bomb or that virus to work on the system. So logic bomb is basically based on that. So logic bomb is when a condition is achieved, it will start performing its function. Likewise, you have several other worms and viruses, which we'll be seeing one by one. One is a Trojan horse. It's actually a program. Many of our emails will get this Trojan horse through spams. And if we open the email, it will automatically be downloaded into our system. And Trojan horse generally doesn't show any kind of harm to the system until even for 1 year or a longer period of time. So after 2 3 years only, it will sometimes show its action. So it is the functionality keeps differing for Trojan horse. So backdoor is you try to unauthorized access is done. That is when I see my email, you can also access my email. Okay, that is backdoor attack. Unauthorization access to my functionality. Then exploits is nothing but you generate a code again and you set some vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities are nothing but weaknesses. Okay, you set some weak, the passwords of your close friend or all, their active code, so you can easily try to get their bank passwords in it if you know them personally and something like that. Then you have downloaders where there are a lot of downloadable programs, virus programs. Even when you open a website, sometimes some programs gets downloaded to your system. Then you have auto router. Then you have Kit. They are nothing but a set of tools that is used to generate virus. Then you have spams. You know what is spammer programs? There are large volumes of unwanted emails can be sent every day. And then you have flooders. Flooders is nothing but you try to send, for example, if you take your email, suppose if you try to send 1,000 emails to only one mail, okay, 1,000 emails to one mail, what will happen? It will corrupt that person or it will crash that person's email, which is very dangerous. Okay, so that is about flooders. Then keyloggers is nothing but it will capture your keystrokes. Whatever it's a program coded to capture the keystrokes. Yeah. Then rootkit is another hacker tools. From the administrator level, it will try to access your system. Then zombie is it's a program that is on from one machine it will attack the other machine. Okay, so to make it a little more interesting, I'll give you some additional information. Just stay online. Okay, there is a website called virustotal.com. Okay, let me stop the share and let me start with the whiteboard and write it on the whiteboard. It's all in capitals, okay? No, it's not in capitals actually. It is virus. It's all small letter without any space. Virustotal.com. Just go to this website virustotal.com. Yeah, if you go to this website, you'll be able to choose any file from your system or any website if you want. You can check whether it is how much of antivirus is there or how much of virus has stopped this website. So it's a very good website to understand that. Then I'll tell you one more information. There's one more website which gives you, okay, I'll send it. It's like a PDF. So I'll send it to you in your group mail. Okay. That is also a very good tool which tells you how to get different emails. Okay, different types of emails. I'll send it to you. That. Okay, now as we take the attendance, I'll just proceed on to the next one. So the nature of virus generally it is going to be a idle state, which is a dormant state. Then making a copy of itself is the propagation phase. Okay, first it will be idle, then it will start, once it gets a medium, it will start replicating itself, that is called the propagation phase. Then it becomes activated, that is, it starts destroying your system, it's just triggering phase. And finally, after the execution is performed, it is called the execution phase. Okay. So worm, I gave you a lot of examples about worm and discussed to you what a worm is. So if you take few examples of worm, it is nothing but electronic mail facility in which email, that is what email, a worm copies itself to the other systems. Okay, then you have remote execution capability where it will copy itself on other systems. That is, it will not remote execution. So from one system to another system, it will try to copy by itself. If you use any, even if you use a what intranet also, it can be done easily. Then remote login is also available where the worm will log on to a remote system like a user itself. Okay, it will log on directly like a user and it will try to copy the program to the system. So there are many other examples. You can also refer the internet and write a lot of more examples for this answer. So viruses and worms is an open question, like it's an open. You can write whatever you feel like for this answer. There are a lot of worms available. Morris worm is a very famous one. That's why I've taken this example. So there is chance for you to, they'll ask you like explain one of the worms or which is explain a worm in detail. So if they ask like that, you can choose the smallest worm and write about it. There are also many other worms available. Whichever you like, you can write. But Morris worm is very famous worm. Okay, it's a very widely known worm. So it was generally it was designed to spread out Unix systems. So it was earlier one, long before, and it will the worm it tries to crack the password. And then it will discover all the password, and then it will take the corresponding ID. So that is what the first thing it does. Then it will make permutations of it. The same virus will start to multiply. And what this virus worm did is it took 432-bit passwords and it started exploiting all the protocols inside the system, and it started debugging option also, so that all the sending receiving emails and all were started to uh, you know, uh, collapse slowly. Then finally what happened was it affected the command line interpreter itself. So slowly one option it started affecting, and finally it affected the system admin itself. So that was the nature behind the Morris. Okay, so just I'm closing off for the day. We'll see tomorrow.